everybody, welcome. The time is nigh. We're at my top 10 games of all time at this moment in time, of course, my top 10 board games. Really excited. I already did 4 previous videos, going from 50 to 11. A few surprises, a few games that rise very high, that dropped very low. Quite some new games, because 2012 was a great year for board gaming. And now we're at the best games, the best 10 games for me, of course. It's my opinion, it's the games I like, the games I've played, because there are some games I didn't play yet. I will mention those in the next video, in which I take a look back at this list and react to some comments if there are any. So feel free to comment below after watching this video, or while watching this video, whatever. Do what you like, you are free. So I'm free to do what I want, and I want to go and see to the number 10 of my list. Let's go. Number 10 is a game that I don't own, but I have it here at this moment in time because I borrowed it from my gaming club. I advised them to buy the game because it was quite expensive, and I wasn't sure that I was going to like it because it has some feeling of area control to it, but after playing it, it actually is not area control. And I'm talking about the awesome game Blood Rage by Eric Lang, and cool mini or not. In this game, people are these Viking clans, and they are vying for glory. They are fighting for glory in this big map with different provinces. They are invading provinces, they are pillaging them, but this cool thing about this game is that you might even gain glory by losing battles, because at the beginning of the game, of each round, of each age, you draft cards with actions that you can do, or quests that you can take, upgrades you can do to make you stronger. But the way you make yourself stronger is a little bit up to you, depending on the cards that you draft. There are cards that give you bonus points if you pillage provinces, that give you bonus points if you invade certain things, but also cards that give you points for losing in battles, for dying gloriously in battle and going to Valhalla. Awesome team, awesome game, and of course what makes this game expensive but also really good looking are the miniatures in this game. The miniatures are gorgeous, are impressive, are cool to look at, and well, the complete picture is just great. Normally I don't like games where you have to fight or battle, or there is much conflict, but this game somehow works for everybody. I played this with non-gamers who in the past only played Monopoly, Risk and Catan, and they really like this game as well. It plays so easy, it looks difficult, but it is actually so easy and smooth. It really is surprisingly smooth, and that's why this is my number 10, Blood Rage. Yeah. Number 9 was already in the top 10 last year. It was number 6, so it dropped 3 places. Well, that's no bad thing at all, because it's still there, still high, still love it. It isn't the best game out there. It is a little bit samey each time you play it, but the biggest reason why I like Pathfinder, the adventure card game, that much is because I've been playing the complete campaign with my girlfriend. So we're at the last scenario now, at the last expansion pack, so we're close to finishing this game, and it is just really fun to be playing this with our two and just going through the complete story, leveling our character, making him better, improving the deck, because in this game your player is represented by a deck of cards. You have items, weapons, armor, spells, and allies that you bring, but your deck are your cards that you will have to play to defeat enemies, to gain other items, but also it represents your life total. As soon as you run out of cards in your deck, you are dead and you lose the scenario, you lose the mission. Now, at this moment we have been very lucky with the missions, we haven't lost that many, so the game might be a little bit too easy, maybe not. I have only played 2 players, so I'm not sure if you play with more players how the difficulty level raises or is lower. But still, the experience that we had with this game, we have spent a little bit of money on it, of course, buying all the expansion packs, but the experience was worth every penny of it because it was a nice thing to do with the 2 of us. So, Pathfinder, a really great game. I backed another game by Mike Selinker on Kickstarter, Apocrypha. I've talked about it a very big while ago when the Kickstarter was still going on. It is the same idea, it's a very different setting, and I'm really looking forward to play it in 2016 when my copy arrives, and hopefully we get as much fun out of that one as we did out of Pathfinder the Adventure card game, my number 9. While I made this list last year, I was already thinking that this game on my number 8 might surpass Burgen van Burgund, because it's from the same designer and I was really liking it, but I hadn't played it that much. Now, after a few more plays, yes, it surpassed Burgen, and I'm talking about Trajan. So last year my number 5, this year my number 8, so it dropped 3 places, which isn't a big deal because this game is still great. Now, Burgen van Burgund is quite accessible for many players. This one is a little bit harder to learn to teach, and in this game, because you have so many options. Now in this game you are trying to score points. It is a Stefan Feld game, so you're trying to score points, and there are many ways to score them. Each turn you are going to do this thing on this rondelle, Mancala style, so you're going to move these tokens, and the last place you put your token on, that's the action you can perform. And there are many actions and there are many ways to score points with them. You can go and conquer Europe and try to gain some points and some items there that can help you during the game. You can build fountains and roofs and whatever. You can try to get the most votes in the Senate, that gives you more points. You can do some set collection and score points by that, or you can sell sets for points during the game as well. Many ways to score points. At the end of the game you have scored many points no matter what you did, because this game awards every action you take, which is awesome. I really like the feeling of gaining points, gaining rewards for anything I do, not being punished or doing something else, just gaining points and feeling that you have done something right. A great game. It takes a while to set up, it takes a while to play, but it's really awesome. We played it 2 players quite a bit already and we really like it here, and that's why it's my number 8, Trajan. My number 7, there's no surprise that this is in my list. Actually, in many people's top 10s of this year, it is number 1 or number 2. Well, it's not there for me yet. I think there are 2 newer games on this list, 2 new games on this list that are higher, but it still is a great game. It's the new, fresh, exciting brother of Pandemic. It's Pandemic Legacy. Now, the base idea of the game is completely the same as in Pandemic. You are trying to eradicate and cure diseases, and the game starts exactly the same, but the legacy part kicks in pretty soon, because the game will change as you play it. There are going to be things that happen, there is going to be a storyline into it, you are going to change the board, you're going to change cards, you're going to write on things, you put stickers on things, you are going to destroy things. Of course, that means you can only play this game once, and there's a lot of controversy around this year. People who don't like the idea of having to destroy things, that you can only play a game once. And well, the game was rising on the Board Game Geek list, and some people didn't like that and started voting it down without any success, but at this moment it is the number 1 game on Board Game Geek. So I put it on my number 7 spot. Why only number 7? Well, I really like it, you can be sure of that, but we're only at month 4. We are in April and you are going over a complete year. So I've got quite some games left on the calendar and to have the complete idea of the complete game. Now, the experience so far has been awesome. Especially the first month is like a revelation, because it was the first time I ever experienced a legacy thing, so I was completely excited. And I must say there are a few things that happened in the meanwhile that really excite me as well. So a really great, really involving game. Of course, you have to need to find a group of people that are able to play this game completely, which you have to do it with the same people. It's the best. You can do it with different groups, but you will not experience the same thing as when you do it with the same people, the complete game. Will this be higher on my list next year? Who knows? I hope so, because that will mean that next plays are awesome as well. But for now, it's my number 7, Pandemic Legacy. My number 6, and it might come to as a surprise that it is higher than games like Pandemic Legacy, but the game is really fun, and for me, in my situation where I mostly play games with my girlfriend, and so that's why a 2-player game has a chance to get really high on my list. And Seven Wonders Duel is the game that managed to get on number 6. This is the little 2-player brother of Seven Wonders, which is also on this list somewhere in my closet here in my shelves. And this game is better in my opinion. Okay, you can only play it by 2 players, but the idea is just awesome. You have these cards lying on the table in each round, so there are 3 rounds, and you're going to draft them. So if it's your turn, you can choose one card that's free. Why that's free? What do I mean? Well, these cards might overlap each other, and you have to take other cards to free other cards so that they can be chosen to put in your empire. And also the different thing is that in this game you can win by points at the end of the game. After 3 rounds, if you have the most points, you win the game. But in the meanwhile, you can have a military or a technology victory. You do this by, well, getting military cards, and you have this board in which you put your military marker towards your enemy. If he can't stop you taking military cards, you will eventually reach his capital city and you will win immediately without having to score any points. And the technology victory is also a possibility. That's the green cards that you know from Seven Wonders, the normal Seven Wonders. You can collect them, they have different symbols, and if you manage to have enough different symbols, you also win the game immediately. Which makes this a more tactical game, because you really have to see and keep an eye on what your opponent is doing. Really exciting game, plays really fast, really easy, but it's really deep and really fun. And that's why it is my number 6, Seven Wonders Duel. Actually, it is a real miracle that this game that I'm talking about now, my number 5 spot, is not my number 1. And that just indicates how good of games there are in this world, because I really love the game that is my number 5. It was my number 4 last year, so it dropped 1 spot, but I still love this game, and I'm talking about Imperial Settlers. Now, Imperial Settlers is this card game in which you are trying to build your empire. There are different factions. You start with 4 factions in the base game. There has been released a new expansion this year, which is very good, very interesting. The Atlanteans, which, well, of course, sink at the end of the game, so you have to play really differently. So these factions in the base game, you have to build your empire, you score points during the game by activating certain cards, but you also score points by having these buildings at the end of the game. So you have common buildings, you have your faction buildings, which are worth double the points, and are a little bit stronger maybe. And you do this by playing them, but you have to pay the cost. You have these resources, wood, stone, gold and food that you can use to make deals, to build buildings, to activate action cards, and so on and so on. Really interesting. The Atlanteans, of course, they have to get all their points during the game because they don't have any buildings at the end of the game because it all sinks down the water. This game is really awesome. We love it for a two-player game. It might be a little bit too long for some people when you play it complete four-player game. The rules of the Atlanteans also say it. You can play a five-player game if you really want, but then the downtime is quite a little bit too long. That's probably the only reason why this is not my number one. But still, this game is awesome. One of the best games out there, and you should really try this out. My number 5, Imperial Settlers. My number 4 was number 28 last year. No, sorry. Okay. Coming from number 24, my number 20... fuck me. Coming from number 24, my number 4 has done really good this year, and it raised all the way to number 4, 20 spots higher than last year, which is awesome, especially with all the competition in this list. This is a cooperative game. There might be a moment where it is not completely cooperative anymore because some things might happen in this game. I'm talking about Legendary Encounter, the alien deck building game. I did a playthrough of this game, so that most of the time that means that I really like a game. And in this game there are 4 scenarios in this game. Each scenario is actually the scenario of one of the 4 Alien movies. I really like this game already. It's a deck building game. You have these starting cards, these basic starting cards, and well, you will be playing these cards, buying new heroes that you can play, new characters that you add to your deck, and they come around each time, and you will play them to defeat these aliens to try to get to certain objectives. And it's really thematic, this game. That's the big difference with this other game that I already mentioned, the Marvel Legendary game, which is also really thematic, but this is just adds so much more because you really have a thematic story in this that really makes sense. And recently I finally saw the first 3 Alien movies, and after seeing them or re-watching them, it was been so many years ago, so I had forgotten so much about the movies. Now, since watching these movies, the game is even better for me. That's why it got all the way to number 4. I still love this game. There is now a Predator version as well that can be combined with this version. I still didn't buy it because it's so expensive, and the reactions, the reviews aren't that great for it. Everybody likes this one better, so I'm still on the fence about buying that one, but this one still holds up to me, and it's really, really awesome. My number 4 this year, Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game. Alright folks, are you ready for my top 3 games of all time at this moment in time? Now, number 3 was number 2 last year. It had to give up its space for another game, so oh right, what happened? Well, the game I'm talking about is Eldritch Horror. This is the first big expansion, the Mountains of Madness expansion. This is the base game, and there's already a second big box expansion there, and that's probably the biggest reason why this isn't my number 2 anymore. While I still love this game, I adore this game, it is one of my favorite games to play solo, although it's a longer game of course, and it's so hard to win. It is really so hard to win. I just won the second time ever, and I think I played this game now around 18 times, so 2 of 18 is not that great. It's just so hard to win this game. Now, the great thing about this, Every time you play, it's a different story. There are so many different ancients that you can choose to fight against. There are so many things that can happen, so many different investigators you can use. So the replayability is enormous. Each time you have this big, awesome, interesting adventure. And well, now there is just one thing that's with the expansions is getting harder, and that's setup. This game takes so long to set up now with all the expansions. There are so many cards, so many tokens, so many different rules depending on which ancient you have, which prelude cards, because there are the prelude cards now that you choose randomly at the beginning of the game. You might have to add a certain board to it for the pyramids, for the Antarctica, and that might add a little bit too much. Although more cards means more variation, more replayability, so I still love the expansions, but it is hard to put this on the table. But I really love this game, so be sure about that. It is my number 3, and so it is really awesome. My number 3, Eldritch Horror and all its expansions, and there are probably many more to come. Okay people, we're down to number 2, the game that barely didn't make number 1, because actually it was really excited. It was a tough choice, but it didn't get to number 1, but it's a brand new addition to my list. I didn't have it last year because it just came out in the US and I couldn't buy it here yet, so for me, and also apparently for Board Game Geek, it's a 2015 release. And so number 2 immediately, that's a nice way to go. I'm talking about Roll for the Galaxy. Now, I used to have Race for the Galaxy. I tried to learn the rules. I didn't know what I was reading. I had no clue how the game was going, so I threw it away and, well, never thought of it anymore. Then I saw this game that was coming out, and I was, well, of course, a little bit skeptic of it because the Race for the Galaxy was way too convoluted for me. So I watched a few videos and it looked really interesting. So I bought the game, and since I bought the game, I really loved the game. In this game, you are trying to score points by colonizing these worlds, by these planets, and by having these technologies, and those are all tiles that you have to put in front of you, and you pay by using dice. So each round you are going to roll a certain number of dice, and you have to allocate them to certain actions depending on the side you rolled on those dice. You can go exploring, you can get resources on planets, you can harvest those resources from the planets, you can get new tiles, you can just get money for tiles, you can start to make technologies or to colonize planets. And all these things are just by rolling dice and allocating those to the right actions. And you can medicate how the dice work, especially later in the game where you have more technologies that you can use. It plays really smooth. It's not that hard to explain, only a few rules that are a little bit more difficult to explain for new players. But after that, this game is really good. It already got an expansion this year called Ambition, and that adds a little bit more variation. It adds some missions that you can do. It adds another color of dice, and it adds a new dice to start with, which give you more possibilities, more choices that you can take. And well, it's just a great game. I'm really happy I tried it, I bought it, and that I owe it now because, well, as you can see, it is my number 2 game at this moment. Roll for the Galaxy, awesome game. Number 2! Okay people, this is it. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. And this was a tough choice. I will have to spoil it already. It was my number one last year, but it barely stayed there because Roll for the Galaxy is a really awesome game. But the stories this game tells, the excitement when you manage to win this game, because this game is so hard to win, it still beats the great mechanics of Roll for the Galaxy. I really love Team, and this is the most thematic, most intense, most best storytelling game that there is out there. And I'm talking about Robinson Crusoe, a game by Ignacy Cevicek. This is a Z-Man version. Portal will do the distribution again later in 2016, as I heard before, and this game is so good. Each time you have these different scenarios in this game, so each time you're going to choose a scenario to play, and each scenario plays very differently. Now this is actually a worker placement game, so in your turn, or in the player's turn, they are going to have their workers, and they're going to choose which actions they are going to take, and they are going to resolve those actions. You can go explore, you can build a shelter, you can build a palisade around your shelter, but you can also build items that you might need later in the game to build other things. You can go hunt animals, and you can do so many different things. It is just great. Each scenario is different. With the cards that you draw, which tells you a little bit of a story, you can make your own story each time you play this. It is so good, so exciting, and I really love this game. As a matter of fact, I love this game so much, and I love this box art so much, because I think this box has the artwork that it's never talked about, but I really like the artwork, and I will already put this game on its deserved place here. Now there's also an expansion for it, The Voyage of the Beagle, which, well, is a kind of complete scenario story that you can follow, and it follows the adventures of The Voyage of the Beagle, so also a great expansion. Haven't played through it completely yet, so there's still a lot of things to do for me, but also really interesting. And, well, I like this so much that, well, a couple of months ago I got this from my girlfriend, this great picture here from the artwork. Thanks guys from Portal Games who sent us the files so that she could have let this made. I really like this game. You might have noticed it in some previous videos that it was standing somewhere here. Still have to take care of my room, because I have to hang it up somewhere there. So that's my number one for now. Well, maybe it was a surprise, maybe it wasn't. There were a few people who really were guessing, like, what the hell is going to be his number one? Really cannot guess it, because maybe you've noticed that I have a really diverse taste of board games. Now, I will do a next video in which I will reflect on this list. I will see what comments I got, so please do comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know which games you really expected there to be but you didn't see on my list, and I will comment on that in my next video about my top 50. This was my list for now, so the big winner, Robinson Crusoe, but as I already said, all these 50 games that I talked about I really like, and there won't be many times that I will refuse playing one of those. So, thank you all for watching. It has been a long adventure, 50 games, 5 videos, and I thank you all for being so loyal in watching them. If you want to comment or want to talk to me, just come to me on Twitter. I'm at Vitruvian Gamer. I'd love to see you there. I thank you again for watching, and I see you all in the future. Bye bye.